Energon Megatron. This was my childhood Megatron toy growing up. I had Cybertron Optimus Prime and this big old Energon Megatron. And I absolutely adore this toy. This is still to this day one of my absolute favorite Megatron toys. It's big, it's beefy, it's chonky, it's Megatron-y. Actually, it's more Galvatron-y, which is why I kind of prefer G1 Galvatron over Megatron, was because this was my Megatron. He is pretty much just G1 Galvatron with wings and Ultra Magnus shoulders and a tank on his arm. That is what Energon Megatron is. And I was actually planning on making a video reviewing this Megatron, but Hasbro gave me the opportunity to make an old versus new. However, this one is very different because we're not comparing this to like a modern day leader class or a modern day Voyager class or a commander class. I feel like this figure could probably use like a modern leader, but we're comparing it to a core class. They made a new Energon Megatron into a cute little core class. Now, I would still love to see like a Voyager or leader of this character someday, but I'm very happy to have a cute little version, a little pocket version of my childhood Megatron. I would love to have a little like core class, you know, or even deluxe class Cybertron Optimus that's like a core but with all the armor. Wouldn't that be interesting? It'd be really cool if they did that. But still, it is very cool to have this little tiny version of my childhood Megatron. And actually, I have an idea. Oh yeah, it works. I technically still can have my childhood Optimus and childhood Megatron fight each other. Now in tiny form. I can just use the old Cybertron Legends class, because I don't think Energon Megatron ever got a toy this tiny before. And it's very adorable. And it's very cute to see how they translated big old Energon Megatron into this tiny little one. It's very, very cool. Now, obviously, it's going to be very hard to like do an old versus new where you just see them both on camera at the same time, because there is a very drastic size difference. It's very, very drastic. So we're just going to like put him all the way back there so you can maybe still see him. But I just need to talk about all the fun features and functionalities of this old Energon Megatron. First and foremost, this head sculpt, absolutely incredible. One of my absolute favorite Transformers head sculpts. When I was a kid, I just stared at this. That metallic, like, bluish silver and the stoic face. Like, Energon Megatron is such an amazing design. And one of my favorite aspects of Energon Megatron, for sure, is when he just yawned for 1 hour straight as the Transformers Energon theme repeated over and over. That was absolutely one of my favorite moments. If you know what I'm talking about, you're a diehard J4 fan. But I love this toy. Absolutely love it. It's Click City. He is absolute Click City. He's got lots of articulation, but not a lot of posability. He has a lot of the articulation on paper, but he's got a swivel at the head. He kind of has a hinge at the head, too, but that's mostly for transformation. He does have swivels at the shoulders and outs at the shoulders. He doesn't have any, like, elbow swivel, but he does have an elbow hinge. He doesn't have any wrist rotation, but I think he kind of, yeah, he has a forearm swivel, so that's kind of nice. He doesn't really have anything at the torso, but he does have legs that move forward. He does have knees that bend, but the knee bend is very slight. Actually, I wasn't really sure he had a knee bend when I was a kid. I'm like, does he have a knee bend, or does it just go out like that? I wasn't really sure. And the feet are like spring-loaded for the transformations, so he does have articulation, but he just doesn't have a lot of posability, especially since he has a lot of odd weight distribution, especially since his main electronic feature is all here in this arm cannon. Now, his arm cannon is very cool, because it's like a tank sword thing. And I got this guy when I was a kid, already like pre-owned. I got it at the Earth Collectible Toy Mall in Pleasant Ridge, Ohio. Oh, Ohio. He was all complete when I got him. And as a kid, I slowly lost a lot of the pieces. I lost the shoulder like launchers up here that are on hinges, but they like popping off all the time. Hence why I lost them as a kid. So he has these shoulder cannons up here. I like those rotated down most of the time. I just think they look nicer like that. I lost those. I lost the entire tank for quite some time. And this tank shoulder thing right here, this arm-mounted thing, Has a lot of different pieces. It has this clear sword. It has the barrel, which I think is a separate piece, but it has the missile at least, if that's a separate piece. He does have these little clips back here. He has this little clear piece that like flips out as like a targeting computer thing. But the main feature with this is it has lights and sounds. So when it's mounted to his arm, which it just mounts with these clips, and it mounts decently well, still after all these years, because I've had this thing for not exactly 20 years, but pretty close to 20 years I've had this thing. But one of my favorite features about it is when the sword like hits something, it has a light and a sound. And then we can take this off and flip it around if we want to have the cannon side facing forward. And we can hit the button and it has a missile that shoots out. But if you hit the button a little bit harder, it's very odd. It has like a machine gun sound for it being a tank turret. And it is one of those things that just repeats if you just keep hitting it. And you can have them interrupt each other too. Like, you can hit this and then interrupt it with the sword. So you do get lights and sounds with this tank. And the tank can be a separate entity. You can remove it, obviously. And this clip on his arm, oh man, it's clipped on real tight. The clip you can just flip in, and the tank itself, is that a hinge on the side? Or is that just sculpted like that? I guess it's just sculpted like that. I never noticed as that sculpt on the side that almost looks like a hinge, but I don't think it's a hinge. But yeah, you can just take this sword off if you want to, and you can just have it as a tank that's like beside him. You know, cute little added thing. Me personally, though, I always like this attached to him. But we'll leave it off for right now so we can show off some other features of this toy. Obviously, he has the shoulder cannons right there. And there's a little Energon clear chamber thing. Energon figures. It's kind of a gimmick from Beast Machines they carried over. Was it started in Transmetal? No, I think it started in Beast Machines, where it's like the Decepticon emblem. It's kind of hard to see. The Decepticon emblem like behind a piece of clear plastic. I think that looks really cool. I always like when they do that. One of my favorite gimmicks about this guy are with the wings. So the wings have like a gear gimmick where you can pull these out and the wings like spread out even more. And it does also work in the jet mode, obviously. You can also flip this piece back if you want to do that instead. But I always found it more fun growing up just to pull that out. And it's just like, deploy! And it looks cool in the robot mode. It looks cool in the vehicle mode. It's just cool all around. I love this toy. I absolutely adore it. And it is one of my favorite Megatrons ever, still to this day. And I can't get over it. It's amazing. 10 out of 10. So let us take a look at the miniature version that has come out in the year 2024. So this thing still does retain a decent amount of the gimmicks. But obviously it's a lot smaller. It doesn't have nearly as much paint, like all the little red details around his body and in his knees. He doesn't have any of that. He still has a pretty nice head sculpt, but you can tell it's very tiny now. It's a very, very tiny head sculpt. You can still move the big shoulder cannons, but you don't move them anymore. You just untab them and re-tab them in. One nice thing about that, though, is you can remove them and have them like hold them like a weapon, which I think is kind of nice. You know, a little extra option for you. But again, I like him in the robot mode with these down, so I will move those down. He still has the tank, which is all just one black piece of plastic. So it doesn't have any, obviously, a little $10 core class is not going to have lights and sounds. But you can see it still has a lot of the sculpt. It has so much of that sculpt still in there. And I think that's so cool. I really like that. And it does have a port for like a standard size Transformers peg. If you want to try to mount this on a different weapon, you can definitely do that. And you can still rotate it. You know, have the cannon side or the sword side, just depends. Unfortunately, I'm really disappointed he doesn't have any gimmick with like the wings. The wings are just the wings. There's no spread out or, you know, X-Wing Arc 170 style flip out. Nothing like that. Kind of disappointing. So the articulation on this little guy, he has a little swivel at the head, obviously. He has ball joints at the shoulders, ball joints at the elbows, nothing at the waist. You can still move the wings, which is nice. He does have ball joints at the hips, so you can actually get more of an outward this time. He does have thigh swivels this time around, which is very nice. And his knees hinge very differently than the old one because they had to simplify the transformation on the legs significantly to get this little guy to work. And I almost feel like he's simplified in such a way where he's actually harder to transform than the old one. It's very odd to say that, but this guy's actually a little bit trickier. It's very weird. It's just because, like, the old one, all of the pieces, like, have the perfect place to go. And with this figure, it's just kind of like, how does this thing go? Because it doesn't go like how the old one goes. So I'll probably struggle with this one more than the old one. But they both still have, like, the same amount of backpack. They're still very fundamentally the same Megatron, and I really do enjoy that. So let us transform this original, classic, amazing toy into his awesome jet mode. The jet mode that I spent so long as a kid playing with and just having an absolute blast with. I adore this jet mode. So the tank we can just set off to the side. One of my favorite elements of the transformation, I love how the shoulders compress. I absolutely love this part. So we have to flip the head down, and the horns also flip down too. But the shoulders, they just compress so beautifully. They compress so beautifully. And the hands too also compress so beautifully. Because how the legs work, you take the feet and you squish them together like that, and then you slide them in. And it slides this entire assembly forward. And you have a little landing gear you can also flip out. But I love this part of the transformation. So let's flip the wings a little bit out of our way. So you move the legs totally out, and the springs in the hands, just moving the legs takes care of the hands. And then you take that side knee joint that confused me as a kid, and you move that, and look at this. It's kind of a bit of an automorph. That's a thruster. You move it, and you get a thruster that just automatically comes to form. And that is so cool. So we're almost done already. It's a very simple transformation. We take the top of the jet and we move this down on its double hinge. And it does also have a landing gear up here, but do keep in mind again that that head kind of serves as an extra landing gear. And I love the cockpit. I love it. Unfortunately, with how old this toy is, it does suffer from that thing that old toys have, where like the seam has like grime in it. Like it's kind of discolored. So I really need to like get in there and try to like get that out. Is that just me? Like sometimes old toys, because I mean I've had this ever since I was a real little kid. They like have a discoloration like right down a seam. It's pretty much just right there on this one, but it's always kind of irritating to me. But anyways, pretty much the last thing we do, we take the wings, we rotate them, and it just has such a satisfying click. Take them down, they tab in to the back of the legs so perfectly. The tab is just gorgeous, and you get the super solid jet. But last but not least, we can take the tank and just tab it up top, and we still have ourselves some armament. I just accidentally shot the missile, but that's okay. And there we go. Here is our gorgeous Energon Megatron jet mode. But on top of that, let's not forget, we can pull these out and make it look even cooler. So yeah, this jet is amazing, and it's absolutely one of my favorite leader class figures to ever exist, and I love it. And now we have it as a little core class. I do understand there's like a Voyager-sized version of this mold as well. I would love to own that someday. I would absolutely love to own that, specifically in Galvatron flavors, because I love the Galvatron color scheme of this Megatron mold, probably even more. So let's set that down, and let's try to transform this little guy. And again, like, it's kind of interesting how this little guy manages to be somehow even more difficult. It's kind of hard to figure how that's possible, but it's kind of possible. So it's still very similar where, like, this flips down, but the head doesn't flip and the shoulders don't compress anymore. This still rotates around, and the legs are very confusing. Because now the knees, like, so I think what happens with the arms like stick up. The arms just stick up like this, and they don't tab into the wing, but they still like try to do the wing thing, where it is kind of like the thing that I can't talk. I just can't talk anymore. Like, it's supposed to be like that piece on the leg that like kind of holds the wing in place. but it's obviously just the hand and it doesn't tab in at all, so it just doesn't really work out too well. So I think that like goes off to the side, doesn't it? Doesn't that like go off to the side like that? Because then those go down like this, and then the leg is supposed to tab into the shoulder. That's kind of difficult when that arm's in the way, and then that little shoulder piece starts popping off. And you can just see, like, I just feel like the genius of the old transformation is so difficult to capture when you have to cut that genius out due to the size constraint of making a little core class. But you can see that's pretty much it. Unfortunately, it doesn't like have the really nice gimmick of the thrusters anymore, but thankfully with how they position the knee, you still have the thrusters in the back. So they were mindful of that. And then the wings just go down. And you can tell like the wings especially, like they're angled in a very tight way. So this little jet doesn't really have wings sticking out. Like they should be more like this, but just because of how it works, like I feel like it just doesn't stay as well. I don't know, it's very odd. You can still tab this in, obviously. You can still tab that in and get yourself a, a tank on top. But yeah, this jet's really cute. I really like it. It still has like the very fierce, like, looking face with almost like the eyebrow look. It's very adorable. It's a very adorable, tiny rendition of the big one. But that's... it's the same thing, but smaller and doesn't have all the bells and whistles. But going from a leader class to a core class, that is absolutely expected. I am not expecting this thing to be as beautiful, as intricate, as well-engineered, as heavy, as chunky, as electronic, as overall insanely awesome as the old one. But it's just a cute novelty to have my childhood Megatron in a tiny little core class form. It's a cute novelty. And I think Hasbro did a pretty good job translating it. Given budget restraints, given the design in general, I think Hasbro did a pretty good job. And I would definitely buy this again in Galvatron colors. And hey, if anyone's selling like the Voyager-sized Galvatron or even Megatron, let me know. Because I would love to have this mold, but downscaled even more. I don't know. Anyways, guys, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you think. I love them both. I absolutely love them both. But seriously, let me know down in the comments what you think. I'd again love to see like a new generation's like Voyager or Leader of this Megatron, but I'll take what I can get. Thank you guys so much for watching. Special shout out to channel members as always. Thank you all so much for the continued support. Have a great one, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.